Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the land of the rising sun. We're here in Japan, Suzuka, and welcome back to the iRacing Israel League. And this race, surely, I mean, we saw this just a week ago in Formula 3 cars, that this track can produce some absolutely glorious racing. I am Aaron Smith, your host for this evening. We've got Luis Arroyo in the production booth, and unfortunately, it's just me again. You're going to have to deal with my annoying voice for the next hour, but you'll be distracted by the great racing on track anyway, so do not fear. We're going to have some plentiful action for you tonight, and maybe we'll see Alan Day get the double dub once again. Of course, took 2 victories last time out at the Nürburgring. An absolutely stunning performance by him. He seemed unstoppable throughout the entire evening. Can he replicate it here? Well, we're going to find out. A little bit of a different track from the Nürburgring, of course, but still a track, nevertheless, that these guys are going to have to get used to. These cars maybe not suited to this track as well as, say, Formula 3 cars, but still got plenty of downforce, still got plentiful of well, good talent behind the wheel. We'd like to hope. But I'm very much looking forward to this race. And we've got qualifying going on at the moment. And, well, Alan Day during practice seemed to be the man to beat, being in first place. And, well, can he replicate it in qualifying? We've only got a short qualifying session here. Alan Day, though, has been the star of the field this season. Been a bit unlucky in the first few rounds. Got tangled up in a few back markers and lost crucial amounts of points to his championship rivals, but made up for it in the Nordschleife perfectly, storming away from the rest of the grid in the first race, and then in the feature race, coming from 8th back into first within a matter of laps, and then just ran away from everyone whilst everyone else made mistakes behind. And he seems to be very, very consistent, very, very quick, but just hasn't had the luck really to be able to be as dominant as he would probably like. But the number 42 gonna hopefully have different fortunes today, as we see what kind of lap times everyone else can do. But can anyone else challenge Alan Day, I think, is the biggest question. We've had a few people here and there, you know, get a bit close to him. A few people during practice even sort of not actually too far off. his lap times. I think Sadaya was around, I think, a tenth of a second away from him. We're going to ride on board with Alan Day as he goes for his first lap around Suzuka. And well, if you want any sort of track guide to this track in this car, it's going to be Alan Day, taking it nice and easy through turn one. Car sliding a little bit around maybe quite hot track temps as Suzuka often has. Now we begin the S section, probably the most famous part of all this track. It's absolutely glorious through here in these higher downforce cars. He seems to be struggling a little bit with understeer on this opening lap and a bit of oversteer as well, but sort of orientated as he finishes the S section right on the edge and nearly loses the car on the exit as we come into the first Degner now. Don't hit the inside curb, it is deadly. You want to close to it but not quite into Degner 2. Looks fairly planted through there. Didn't push as hard as he could have through that section, possibly just taking it easy on this first lap, coming now to the hairpin, a little bit deep on the brakes, just ever so slightly was offline, but got a good exit. Now we come down this little kink all the way down to Spoon. Spoon, of course, being another famous corner on this track, one of many. And this is one of the more difficult corners on this track. You want to get your braking absolutely spot on, hit that curb, get as close to the outside curb as you can, got a little bit of understeer, and then oversteer, and drift the out wide on the exit. And well, now possibly the most famous corner of all, coming down 130R. This, in higher downforce cars, not really a corner. It's a little bit scary. Flick the car in, and yeah, in these USF 2000 cars, it's not a challenge at all. Coming now down to the last chicane, got his braking fairly spot on, a little bit on that curb, and now on the exit. It looks like a fairly decent lap from Alan Day. Can it put him on provisional pole? He's taking a wider line, preparing for a better lap time. This is the line. Where is he? And he didn't actually set a time. Fair enough. No time on the board for Alan Day. Maybe an off track somewhere. I mean, we followed him that entire lap, and I don't know. Actually, no, I do know. I think it was on the exit of Spoon, because that off track is very, very awkward if you get a butt ton of understeer on exit, and especially in these lower downforce Formula cars. You know, if you get on throttle that little bit too early, it can push the car out wide, which you can use to your advantage if you know how to get it right, but it can be a very, very big detriment if you get it wrong. So we'll see Alan Day go for another lap, and hopefully he can show everyone who's boss. But Sadaya seems to be the man setting the pace at the moment, 0.4 of a second ahead of Gabay in second place, first in class though, but a 2:03.1. That's a fairly decent lap time by the 147. Of course, got one more lap to go to try and best it. And this second lap is always the most intense you will ever be in iRacing, as Kana goes second now. That's a nifty lap time from the number 48, 2:03.2. Only a tenth of a second off of Sadaya. And Stern has, I believe, bottled his qualifying lap. He will not be improving anytime soon. Yes, he's gone back to pit lane. But, as I said, this second lap, I think Sorek as well has made a mistake. And a few people making mistakes on this second lap. And like I was going to say, this second lap is always where you're on the most edge you will ever be in iRacing. That first lap is, you know, hit or miss. You might be taking it a bit easy because it's just a banker lap. The car isn't fully up to temp. It's still got a little bit of fuel in it. So this second lap is where you want to be. And there you go. There's Alan Day's proper lap time, a 2:02.3. That's what we were expecting to see. As the cars behind don't seem to be improving all by that much. Sadaya just crossed the line to do a 2:03.3. So his first lap actually was better than his second. Definitely made a mistake there. And won't have enough time, I don't believe, to set another time. So that's it for his qualifying session, as everyone can't seem to get anywhere near Alan Day's pace. And I thought people would be a little bit closer to him. Maybe qualifying proving to be a little bit difficult for some of these drivers. But we've got Bertie Galili who comes around the last corner. Didn't look like he was on proper lap there. Went very sluggish through there. Maybe I'm wrong as he comes across the line. Oh, no, yeah, he wasn't on a proper lap. But I do not believe he'll be able to set another time anyway, as he's only got 40 seconds to finish his lap time anyway. But nevertheless, oh yeah, just struggling. And there you go. There's someone who can get a little bit closer to his lap time. 5/10 off is still a bit of a struggle. And yeah, it seems like everyone is really struggling around here. And unsurprisingly, it is one of the most difficult tracks in the world to get right. And I think I was saying this during the F3 broadcast last week. It's one of the more technical tracks pretty much on all of iRacing. Not really another track where you have to be as on it every single lap as this. But that's going to do it from qualifying. And unsurprisingly, it's Alan Day on pole position. He put in a very, very good lap time, and no one else really could match it. Half a second. I mean, that is huge. Half a second. It's absolutely incredible. But he's on pole, the number 42. Gonna surely be able to ramp away from the rest of the reel. We got Connor in second place, Sadaya in third, Gabay in fourth, Yaron in fifth, Baba in sixth place, Stern in seventh, Last in eighth, Yosef in ninth place. That's round at your top 10, Benny Sorek. And then you've got a few other drivers who weren't quite on the pace during that qualifying session. We got Arthur Elbert in 11th, Arnon Levi in 12th place, Amir Hased in 13th, Amir Meshalem in 14th, Galili in 15th, Mazuz in 16th, Zubrev in 17th, and Kader in 18th place. A little bit of a reduced grid for this race, not as big as we had in previous races. But is that going to change the racing? Who knows? We're going to find out. And, well, I mean, this is a fairly unpredictable race, to be honest. We've got a lot of a very mixed up grid, actually, compared to what we've had in previous races. Apart from Alan Day, of course, on pole. That's not too surprising. And I actually think that second race with the reverse top 8, it's not the easiest to overtake around here. And I'd love to see the likes of Alan Day ramp their way through the field and see what they can do from a little bit out of place on the grid. But I think Alan Day has got a fairly easy task off the start. Just get a good start, run away from everyone behind, and not get caught up in any other lapped cars. And hopefully he should be fine. But yeah, like I said, the unpredictable nature of this league obviously has you on the edge of your seat constantly. The unpredictable nature of this circuit as well, where you just never know what's going to happen. Alan Day hasn't quite gone yet, and now I think he's got going. Just waiting for the safety car to pull in. And we are green here in Suzuka. Alan Day getting a fairly textbook start from the cars behind. And nevertheless, Connor is going to try and come at him, but wisely decides to back off. Got a few battles going up along the grid. Connor was being a little bit defensive from Sadaya in third place. No one has had too much of an incident so far. Got some fairly clean racing. Now as we head into the S's, Last just about defending from Sorek behind. And I just said we had no major incidents. And that is Last and Sorek in the walls. And I think Last is going to have to pull over, and he's out of this race, and so is Sorek. And yeah, that's a rather shame. I just think they were getting a little bit too close for comfort and just ran into each other. Simple as that. We've got 2 cars out of this race already on lap 1. But other than that, been fairly clean racing so far. And I think Last will have to come back to the pitch. You do get a fast repair in this, a little bit of a lock-up from Day there. Sadai defending from Yaron behind. And it's very difficult to get an overtake into that hairpin. You have to get such a good exit out of Degna 2. And Sadai's rather trying to defend from Yaron into Spoon. Mazuz has made a mistake behind. He's off the track. As you come into Spoon, is Yaron going to be able to go for it? Not quite. Bit of a bold move there if he was going to go for it. But Sadai still trying to defend from Yaron. He's just not had that good pace on this opening lap. And yeah, Mizzou's has also come back to the pits. And I think we've had a few more cars who have had some incidents further down. But other than that, the top 10 actually have stayed fairly clean on this opening lap. And remain as you are, and I just said that, and Connor has gone off at 130R and is falling down the grid. And I just said it was fairly clean for the top 10, and he made me eat my words, and we're going to have a look at what happened. Possibly just in the dirty air, maybe? Yeah, actually it was just a bit, like a tiny bit too much understeer. He actually went on that inside curb on the entry. Oh, bit of a sketchy rejoin from the 48. But yeah, he got on the inside curb into 130R. And then just understeered out and got on the death curb. Here's also what happened to Arthur Elbert, his perspective on it. And you can see just how sketchy that was. And Elbert is a very, very lucky boy to still be driving in the right direction. As we've seen that a few times over the course of this season. Some people having fairly sketchy rejoins. I think Gabay is nope, he's okay. I think he just had a bit of an off track there, but managed to keep it on the track. But yeah, like I said, this track does produce a fair few mistakes, to be honest. And like I said, you are on the edge constantly around here. You have to get your lines exactly perfect. I mean, there is realistically only one line you can take around here. There's not really any different lines you can experiment with. There's just the one, and you've got to stick to it. Otherwise, you're going to be massively off the pace. And here is the battle. First, I believe this is for 8th place overall. And are kind of trying to come back through the field. There's a car off. That's Ben Youssef, and Elbert as well was... Oh, careful on the rejoin. That could have been bad. Ben Youssef managed to get back on the track perfectly fine. And Connor trying to overtake Levi. And now this is for 7th place. As we also mentioned that Elbert went off up ahead. This is going to be tight through 130R. And smartly, Levi decides to back out of it and not fight too heavily into 130R. As I believe he knows that Connor is quicker than him, and yeah, not really too wise to fight a faster car through there. And do you know what? So I just, and actually Yaron as well, they're putting in some good laps. I think Day just did not have a good lap at all. He was on a second off the pace. But I think we can expect Alan Day to start getting back on the loud pedal this lap. So he doesn't make mistakes too often, does Alan? But when he does, very, very costly, is when you're on the edge of the limit, when you make a mistake, as we've seen many times this season from the likes of Charles Leclerc, you can easily end up in a wall. But Elbert doing pretty well at the moment, sitting in 6th. Also, obviously, he is nearly the victim of Kana coming back on the track in 130R, but just about managed to keep it on the track. But he's second in class as well, and I've jinxed him. Fantastic. I am so sorry, Arthur Elbert. He's in the wall, and well, yep. And yeah, I was just saying he was doing well, and once again, my commentator curse coming back to bite me. And that's Arthur Elbert in the wars, and he's out of this race. Ah, it's getting worse. I promise you. I'm not doing this on purpose, but here's also what happened to Mizzou's. We just cut to him spinning on the exit of the hairpin, and it looks okay, and just got on the throttle just a tiny bit too early, and just smartly manages to avoid everyone else, and manages to sort of get it back on the track. Just got to be careful on rejoining, but did okay in the end. But look at this, we got a little battle brewing up for 2nd place overall between 3 cars. We've got Sadaya, Yaron, and Gabay all battling it out. And actually, no, this is for the lead. My apologies. And I didn't even realise that Alan Day, again, has not had a very good lap compared to the cars behind. And, you know, I was so surprised at Alan being not very on the pace that I thought this was for 2nd. But either way, we might get some good racing for the lead. And you're on, that is not a line at all. And that's what I mean when I was talking about there's only one line around this track, as you know, if you go offline just a tiny bit, it did cost him a few tenths of a second there, which is not ideal, of course. He would rather be hoping to be in front of Sadar and very much hoping to be in front of Day, but I think the slipstream might be playing a crucial part in this race. And yeah, the dirty air, of course, these cars have downforce, but not too much. But they have slipstream, but also not too much. It's kind of a mixed bag. And around here, usually the dirty air would affect you a lot, especially in Sector 1. But surprisingly, I've just been joined by my good friend Andy Thompson. Andy, hello, welcome to the commentary booth. It's nice to have someone else in here, so I'm not talking to myself for the next hour. And don't know if you've been watching this race at all. I'm guessing probably not, but just to update you, we've had a few spins, a few crashes here and there, as Suzuka often does. It's a very on-the-limit track, but we've got a little battle brewing for first place. And after being in here mere seconds, you know, you've surely had some impressions of who might be the quickest driver out of the top three, and you know, in terms of overtaking around this track, where's a good opportunity?
Yeah, good evening, Aaron. Good evening, viewers. Yeah, the USF 2000 car, not really a car I've really driven around here, but this track is absolutely awesome. I think one of the big areas that you can look at trying to gain that time is obviously turn number one. Turn number one is one of them corners that you can really throw it into. So if with the addition of that long straight and the slipstream effect of these cars, you should be able to get a decent passing maneuver done through going down into turn one. But you know, the brave individuals among us will actually try to make passing opportunities up the snake, but it's probably not really advisable. Coming through the Degnas, really not an option to be able to do. But coming down and obviously out the turn number out turn 13, the spoons coming down to the 130R is obviously the obvious places to pass in these cars. And as we're watching Zubarev here in ninth place, looking back from him here at Mechelem in P4 in Classic, looks like overall. P13 out there as they come down into turn number one. It's a really tricky track to master, and like you were saying, Aaron, it's very difficult to make them passing opportunities, but you've really got to try and fashion the opening in these cars.
Yeah, I think from experience, the best way to overtake around here is just to put pressure on your opponent. As you were talking about, there's too many overtaking opportunities. It's a fairly narrow track, and like you were saying, into Degnas, it's not usually an overtake opportunity, but Mechelem's going to try and go for it anyway. Gets bottomed out on the outside curves, and then forces Zubrev into a mistake like I was talking about, and finally gets ahead. Mechelem seems to be having really, really good pace. I think he was just caught up in an incident at the first part of the race. But yeah, overtaking around here is more just applying pressure to your opponent, as like you were saying, you know, turn one is a good opportunity, but the problem with turn one as well is it's fairly high medium speed, and you can't just lunge it into the corner like you would in other turn ones, for example. You have to be really, really close to your opponent on the exit of this last chicane, and unfortunately on this lap, Sadaya couldn't really do that, and is just going to have to wait patiently for another lap to try and have a go at Alan Day. As Jerome sets the fastest lap. These guys are kind of trading fastest laps here nor there. And yeah, Kana as well, he's on a mission after spinning out in the early parts of this race. What could have been for him if he kept it on? Maybe he would be battling Alan Day even more, as got an overtake going on a bit further behind. Yosef actually got past Levi into turn one. Goes a little bit wide. That's going to open the door for Levi on the outside, but just doesn't have the room. And like I was saying before, not the ideal line either. There's only really one line around this track, and unfortunately he's going to have to sit behind again for another lap.
Yeah, 100%, as we ride on board with Levi here. currently in P8th overall. Just looking at the back end of Ben Unicef's car there, and it is one of them tricky tracks, and I completely agree with you. What you want to try to do around this track is we watched Levi getting it completely wrong there through turn number 9. The Digners there, it's a treacherous corner. That inside curb is treacherous, and certainly in this car that the suspension travel is very limited, so is lucky to still be on the track there, to be honest. But yeah, it's all about trying to pressurize the driver in front of you to make that slight little mistake. And as we've seen already in this first heat, is that you can get pushed off the course, and it's very easy to make a mistake and lose a lot of time to basically fashion that opening for the drivers to get through. So I think that's probably the main tactic in this Suzuka track. But we will see the odd occasional, like you said, going down into turn 1. Really need to be making sure that you cut off. I think, as we see an incident in the background.
Yeah, that was Yaron, who was just in the slipstream of Sadaya for second place. And I don't know if he just got caught out, maybe distracted by the car ahead. I think he's gotten on the death curb again, and yes, he has. Just the same mistake we saw from Connor just a few laps ago. And you ride that inside curb, kind of pushes you out wide, and then puts you on that outside curb, which then spins you round. We have a few of those here at Suzuka. The biggest one probably actually being at Spoon, where that curb is so deadly. But we're on the white flag now. Alan Day still in the lead of this race, but not been as easy as it has been in previous weeks, especially last week at the Nordschleife, where he sort of just ran away with it in both races. And I actually think in this next race with the top 8 inverted, he's really going to struggle, and I don't know if he will be able to win that next feature race. He's going to have the likes of Connor, who currently is sitting in 5th place. He's going to be starting ahead. Sadaya as well, Yaron, they all were setting decent pace compared to him, and it's going to be a real challenge for him.
Yeah, it definitely is. It is one of them tracks that you really want to do well in the qualifying to get to the front end of the grid to get that position in there. So starting from P8th, obviously Day does have the pace, and I did notice that in the qualifying that he was certainly a quick driver around here, but he's going to have to use all his skill to try and get past them 7 drivers in front of him if he wants to take the second race win here.
Yeah, it's going to be entertaining for sure to see him come through the field, but interesting more to see if he can actually do it. But on this white flag, can Connor, after that early mistake, gain another place up into 4th? I'm sure he wants some kind of redemption. It's kind of a mixed bag actually, because he will obviously gain more points from it, but he'll also be starting 1 place back if he overtakes him. But he's going to completely ignore my advice and go for the overtake anyway into 130R. Can he keep it on the track? Yes, he can. He gets that overtake done. But while we've been watching that, Alan Day has been storming away from the cars behind, crosses the line to take victory in this opening heat at Suzuka. Very good performance by him. Just managed to keep it with the cars behind and set a very quick lap time. 202.3 on that last lap. But I think it was an off-track, unfortunately, so does not count towards the fastest lap. But a lot of mistakes in this opening heat, rather surprising, but sort of not at the same time. You know, this track is constantly on the limit, and it punishes you very heavily if you make a mistake, especially in the likes of 130R, the Degners as well. And if you get caught up with another car, it's even worse. You both could end up in the wall. And, you know, here's last, not in last. He's second from last, actually, but Elbert as well. You know, what a race he could have had. He was right up there, and then my commentator curse came into effect, and he crashed into a wall. So let's hope we can fare a little bit better in the next feature race, as I'll keep my mouth shut.
Yeah, definitely. That 130R is an absolute treacherous corner. I've seen so many cars spinning around there, and them curbs, they don't look very high, but they're super deceiving. And as we've seen here tonight in the first heat, a couple of the drivers, as soon as you get or dip your wheels far into that curb on the outside of the corner. That's when you see the car spinning. Luckily, the one we just saw there, he didn't pirouette, because normally they pirouette off that curb and then smack onto the wall on the inside. So luckily to be able to keep going around that 130R with that treacherous outside curb going into there. But there's quite a lot of treacherous curb around this track and around this circuit. It's quite a deceiving track, actually, isn't it? It seems to flow really well, but these curbs can really bite you. So it really pays to be clean and consistent around here to score some very big, valuable points.
Couldn't really have put it better if I said it myself, Andy. You rather hit the nail on the head there. That was pretty much the way to sum it up, especially in these Formula cars where they hate curbs, compared to the likes of GT3s. They just can't handle them at all. But after that opening heat, it's Bertie Galili who will start on reverse grid pole for this last race. Amir has said lines up alongside on the front row. Then we got Levi in third, Youssef in fourth, Yaron in fifth, Stern in sixth, Connor in seventh, Gabay in eighth, Sadai in ninth, and Alan Day in 10th. It's actually reverse top 10, my apologies. Baba in 11th, Meshalem in 12th. And then your last few finishers, Zubrev in 13th, Last in 14th, Albert 15th, Mazuz in 16th, Sorek in 17th, and Kader in 18th place, who didn't actually take to the grid. We'll see if he'll give this race a go instead. But as we wait for these guys to just finish their little, I'd call it a formation lap, but it's not really at all. It's just a little bit of a walk to the opening grid. It's rather short around this track. It doesn't really give them enough time to warm up the tyres or the brakes. It kind of just builds the anticipation even more. And I think Alan Day's, I thought it was a reverse 8. It's actually reverse 10. So Alan Day's day is going to be even worse and a lot more challenging as we get ready to begin this final race at Suzuka. And Galili has gotten this start off to a T. We are green here in Suzuka, and everyone's slipstreaming. We're going to go 3 wide into turn 1, and he's actually already gotten ahead. And I think that's Yaron who's already up. Oh, that's contact. I saw that. Oh my word. He's so lucky to not have hit any other cars other than our leader of Galili. There's another car off in the background, and that just was not smart. He was way too aggressive off the start and unfortunately made contact with our leader, and that's rather putting into his spirits. There's another car off. Oh, that might be into Alan Day, and that is Alan Day's day once again goes from pretty good to absolute horror for like the 3rd or 4th time this season. He's had horrid luck starting further back. I think he might be out of it as well. He is. He's towed back to the pit. And well, Andy, this race has completely flipped on its head, and we've got more contact into Degna too.
Obviously, a lot of these drivers probably don't realise or have completely forgot that the new iRacing tyre model, the first lap on pretty much every single car in iRacing is a death trap. So you really need to take it early. So I think a lot of the drivers didn't get that memo at the start there. We saw that incident going around the first corner, and wow, 2x2 wide going into that corner. Slight little incident, close compactness of the pack, and it literally caused a chain effect down there. Day was a bit of an unfortunate bystander coming up through the S's. The car got it completely wrong. I'm not sure who it was. I think it might have been Kadar, I'm not sure. But basically cannoned off the curb, the high curbs that you mentioned. These cars do not like them, and then just speared into Alan Day there. It's and pretty much put it. But that's the risk you pay with these reverse grids. It's then being in the broil of the mid-pack battle, certainly being a 10 car as we watch a car go extremely wide there through the 100R, but taking it rather tentatively here on the first lap. You can see the locking up the brakes a lot. Really need to get these tyres warmed up. It takes a couple of laps before they really come into the operating temperature, and then you can really start pushing them. But yeah, it's one of the trials and tribulations of the reverse grid. It's a Marmite effect of the iRacing community, isn't it? Then reverse grid. Some love it, some absolutely hate it. But as you've been mentioning there, I don't think Alan Day is a big get caught up with a few issues in previous rounds as well.
Yeah, he's definitely going to be one of the people that will be voting against it. But we're going to take a replay of what an absolutely chaotic start this was. I think Yaron at first he got a fantastic start, but then kind of just forgot that the car on the inside was there, and just rather boxed himself in, and just way too aggressive off the start. And unfortunately, Galili, who started on pole, will be really, really minced. That's Yaron basically crashing into him. And also we're going to have a look at... There were many incidents into this turn one. Here's Meshalem, who got involved in the wars as well. He got smashed into... I'm not quite sure who that was. I think it might have been the 55. But I'm not 100% sure. But either way, you know, we have some quick drivers in here who just, unfortunately, like you were saying, Andy, just can't really get the hang of these reverse grids. And me personally, I'm sort of mixed on it. Oh my word, Baba did well to avoid that one. And there's the car off as well. That's Levi on the Exeter Spoon, who's had an incident. And again, a lot of mistakes coming out in the early parts of this race. And now we're going to go side by side through 130R. This surely cannot end well.
No, definitely not. It really is a one car corner, this one, but taking the brave hill there is the car number 5, but the car on the inside gave him the room actually, and clipped that corner on the inside quite aggressively, but it's probably going slow enough to not really cause any issues. So they all managed to survive that in there. 4 minutes into this feature race of 22 minutes since we look at Owen here. Just on to the back end of Asif going up into turn number 1. Is he going to get a 2-for-1 here? Really got a good slipstream effect, and I think he's going to be able to make it pay. We'll have that inside line, so we'll carry a lot more speed coming up through turn number 2 for the S's, and that was it. 2 cars for 1 there on the start-finish straight. Gets it off slightly offline coming into the Snakes, which will compromise the speed, but like we said, it's really only one route through this entwining corners here. Referred to as the Snake 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 before they come up to Dunlop. This corner here is actually it's quite a deceiving one as well. Dunlop, it's really opened left-handed corner, like a double corner here, and you really got to make sure that you don't put too much mustard coming into that corner, otherwise you will go out onto the outside. And we did see, I think we saw a car beach there as well on the earlier parts of this race, which if you spin it there and it's still the pack is still quite close together, you literally find yourself right at the back of the grid. So really need to be careful in this track. It's got so many pitfalls, I think, this track, but it's a beautiful track to drive.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those tracks where if you get it right, it's literally, I mean, it's better than most things in the world. It's such a beautiful track when you get it right. And here's your Ron trying to make up for lap 1 and overtakes Hased and moves himself up into 7th place and 5th in class. As, he had some good pace in the opening heat as well, but again made that mistake through 130R and will be kicking himself. Then he made another mistake into turn 1, but is making up for it. So got a long way to go in this race still, and we'll see what he can do by the end of this race. And here's the battle brewing for 2nd place, as Connor has absolutely shot away from the rest of the grid. Unsurprisingly, he had really good pace in the opening heat, but again, just made that one mistake that put his race... He definitely was going to challenge for the win, but again, if you can't keep it on track, then you're just going to punish yourself for it. But this race is a lot closer than the opening heat, as you're on again on the back of Baba. He's going to try and go down the inside of turn 1, but like I was saying just a few minutes ago, you know, you can't really lunge it into that corner as it's fairly medium speed. There's only really one good line through there, and we'll just have to sit behind through these S's painfully and get the dirty air.
Yeah, definitely will. You definitely will be, but you know, there will be a driver that puts pains to us saying you can't do it there, and probably end up making us look like we don't know what we're talking about. But that was only special drivers there, but coming through Dunlop at the top here, coming down into the Degners now, we look at Johan just 2nd in his class, no, 5th in his class there. But if you look at the time intake and see all the white ones, the top drivers, it always seems to be the way on these reverse grid races. You get so many incidents at the front because they're all trying to get through the field as quickly as possible, and then you find the field just completely splits up with obviously the blues there. You can see the I'm assuming they're the AMs. I apologise for that. I'm sure you'll be able to tell. The AM drivers literally getting up further up the grid, getting some more valuable points because the pros from the reverse race, the ones that finished at the top in the first heat, pretty much are trying to push their way through really early on to try and get up with the front runners, and often that causes a lot of incidents like we saw at the start of this race.
Yeah, it was so bad in the opening few rounds that we actually had an AM, I believe, going into round 3, who was leading the championship overall, which, I mean, you don't see very often, but that just shows you how utterly chaotic this league can be sometimes. But this race kind of seems like it's been back to normal, as you were saying, the pros right at the top, but some of them making a little bit hard work, the likes of Euron just being a bit impatient off the start. You know, it was a bit of an optimistic move, and if it had worked, it would have been absolutely glorious, you know, making up, I think he was going to get like 4 or 5 places on the opening lap, but unfortunately he just wasn't able to make it work. Got the words out in the end, but Zubrev as well was one of the drivers in the opening heat that struggled a fair amount, but he's doing a lot better in this race. He's up there in 4th, both in class and overall, but just witnessed Gabay there getting past, and he's got a fairly decent gap to Sadaya behind, so he's might be able to hang on to that 4th place, but it's going to be tough. But I mean, let's be honest, one person that has absolutely stormed the rest of the field today, I mean, Kana, like I said, had he been able to challenge for the win in the opening heat, I think he would have gone on to win it. He's been on it today.
Yeah, it definitely is. Pulled out a really sizable gap at the head of the field. Looking at Albert now in 4th place in the AM class, just looking at the back end of the seeds. USF 2000 cars. I've never really driven these. I don't know if you've ever driven these cars. They do look like good fun.
Yeah, I mean, I think actually for this series I had to buy the car, so I mean that answers your question. But I mean, I drove the Indy Pro, which I don't think is too dissimilar to this car. But I might actually have to give this car a go one day, as that's last going for a trip into the barriers. Just again, those curbs being hugely punishing around this track, and yeah, like you were saying, Andy, this track is amazing when you get it right, but if you get it wrong, it's
so easy to get it wrong though around this track, isn't it? You know, it invites you to make mistakes, which is the sort of tracks that I love to actually watch and not race in, because you know, you're always trying to push and to try and get the best position you can, and you go around the corner, and then all of a sudden the car just snaps away from you, and you spin round, and because of the close proximity of the walls around some of these corners, as soon as you spin it, as we saw there by last, is that, you know, you made a little mistake, come off, and then just went T-bone into the tyre wall, and literally the front end of the car was written off, and that was the end of his day, as well as Day's day and Ashot's and Kadar's day. So you know, a few of the drivers in this second race, 4 drivers at the moment, 3 of them out. Last is obviously touring back to the pits, but I'm pretty sure that is going to be the end of his day. And it's all about, I think, you know, these second races, it is 22 minutes, so it is a sprint class race, but it's slightly more than the 15 minutes, so you know, it's always makes sense, I think, in these races, just to take it a little bit calmer in the opening couple of laps, let the carnage ensue around you, and then pick up some very valuable points. You mentioned Canada at the start of this. You know, the first race struggled a bit, but then in the second race has really got out front and got some valuable positions. You look at, he's up 6 places in this race just by keeping it nice and clean off the start, staying out of the trouble. The second place, Tal Stern, he's up 4 places. Jose Gabe, who on board with now, up 5 places. And Mark Zuberev behind him 4th place, is up 9. So you can see the big gainers from this second heat. And the drivers who took it a little bit calmer at the start and just let everybody behind them just go gun-ho and spin it out and just get some easy points and quick positions.
Yeah, it's really about experience in these heat races, especially with the changing of grids. But we are now on the white flag of this race. It's only 7 laps around here at Suzuka. Of course, it's a 2-minute lap time in these cars, so a little bit more challenging as Zubrev lost a few places on that last lap. But here's the battle for second place that we knew was coming eventually. Gabay choosing the outside line as Stern defended heavily on the inside, but just wasn't really able to put that much pressure on Stern. And he's got a few more opportunities this lap if he wants to get past. And also you can see in the background, Yaron trying to get past Sadaya for 4th place, as he's had a fairly good comeback this race. Again, another driver that, had he not made that mistake on the opening lap, could he have challenged for the lead? You just don't know. But I think experience in these types of races is absolutely key, and you can tell which drivers make the most of it as they're a little bit more patient, aren't as aggressive off the start, and end up in good places because of it. The likes of Connor, they were fairly quiet on the start, and that was Soraya going on the grass on the exit of Degna 2. He really is pushing to keep that 3rd place, but I don't know if Stern is going to be able to keep this 2nd, actually. He's not had the best pace on this lap, and I think Andy Gabay is going to send it into 130R.
Yeah, definitely is. He's well within the slips, in fact, close enough to make that move down the long straight coming into the 300R. So it's going to be interesting to see. It's all about this exit coming around the spoons here. Who's going to get the better one here? Stern getting a really good exit out there, gaining probably around about 2 or 3 tenths of a second over Gabay behind him. Obviously, Khan at the front is well and truly out there, so it's very much a battle for 2nd and 3rd at the moment, as we're currently on board with Gabay to see if he met that move. He's gone down the inside, and not quite is super close between the two of them. Who's going to get that position? It is literally side by side. Oh no! And it's a mistake. The two drivers take each other out. It's
no!
Oh no! That was a crash fest. I didn't realise we were watching Destructive Derby here. I mean, luckily I think they made the Stern made the actual pit, and Gabay just lost 1 position here, but they were all lucky to finish, I think.
Yeah, I could kind of see that coming. I think they were all just being way too aggressive. Yeah, Kana doesn't even realise what's happened behind. He's just happy that he's won the race. But yeah, I don't know. I could kind of see that coming, the way that they were all coming into that last chicane. And yeah, ended in disaster for the likes of Gabay, who possibly could have finished 3rd, but just didn't get the luck he needed to. And Yaron as well paid, after that horrible rejoin, he paid the biggest price for it, and let a few people back up into the top 5. But yeah, that was a rather interesting feature race, to say the least. We had plentiful of action. We had some weird and wacky moments, as we always do in this league. And of course, it's Suzuka, so you never know what's going to happen. But after 7 laps of that feature race, it was Sharon Connor who ends up winning from 10 seconds from Stern in 2nd. Sadaya in 3rd place. He will be very pleased. The AM driver getting a good result, 3rd overall. Gabay in 4th place. Zubrev gaining a place on that last lap to finish in 5th, Yaron in 6th, Baba in 7th, Albert's in 8th, Ased in 9th, and Galili in 10th. I mean, he's fairly lucky after getting crashed into that he still managed to finish inside the top 10, but nevertheless. Levi in 11th place, Mazuz in 12th, Sorek in 13th, Yosef in 14th, Last in 15th. Day, his day's been horrible, not even trying to pun there. He genuinely will be really disappointed after that. Meshalem in 17th, and Kader, who once again didn't take to the grid, in 18th and last place. Well, again, a fairly interesting race here at Suzuka, as we always do, and another unpredictable result as we get in this league. And Andy, I mean, this is definitely your first impression of this season. After watching those 1.5 races, thoughts?
It's good. I mean, I commentated on the Israel League for a couple of rounds when they were driving the GT3 cars, obviously moved up to the single-seater or moved down, whichever way you want to look at it. And the same sort of battles I'm seeing, like Tal Stern was obviously one of the names I make, Mark Zubarev, Gabay. There's quite a few of the drivers that I recognise from the GT3 era. Alan Day was obviously a name that I didn't recognise, but certainly had the pace in that first race. The second race he was unfortunate, got taken out going up through the spoon, up through the snake. at the beginning of the race. But it's part and parcel with the racing that you have with these heat races, and then you get that reverse grid in place. Is it's how do you manage getting through the field, certainly if you're a quicker driver than the rest. And I think patience is the key to scoring consistent points in every round in this, because points really matter on the board. If you get taken out in the first corner, that's your race over. So you've always got to have that in your back of your mind to be able to say, right, okay, the second race, I'm 10th place now where I was first. I know I'm quicker than the guys in front of me. I need to take a little bit of patience coming into that corners. Same with the rest of the drivers, having that mindset in there. But I think you find yourself there's some drivers that are the further back, they have that gun-ho approach, and then they're just like, right, I need to get to the front of the grid as soon as I can. I need to win it into turn one. And that's where we see all the incidents on the cold tyres. Brakes are not warmed up. Certainly around Suzuka, that it's not really an outlap, is it? It's more like a third of a lap or even a quarter of a lap. It's so short, obviously, just going through the 130R. But some great racing on track, and it's good to see him trying new cars in the series.
Are you a champion yourself, Andy? Speaking like a true champion, if I do say so myself.
I can talk the talk, mate. I'm certainly not one for the track, mate, that's for sure. I'm better at commentating than I am in the car, put it that way.
I don't know what I'm better at, to be honest. I'd like to think I'm good at driving, but I don't know anymore. But yeah, I mean, you put it pretty perfectly, to be honest. I think some of these guys just need to have that championship mentality of just taking it a little bit easier, especially in that feature race where the grid is completely bunched up and muddled up and everyone's out of position. And yeah, I think, I mean, the likes of Alan Day, he didn't really do anything wrong, just got unlucky again for like the third time this season. He has the pace, obviously, but some drivers taking a different approach to others. Of course, we saw the likes of Yaron, who was a bit unfortunate to. I mean, you say unfortunate, it was sort of self-inflicted, but actually, we've got time for some interviews. We got. I'm going to pick the first one. I'm going to go with Stern, who. In the end, finished an incredible second place after, I mean, that last lap. I don't even know. That last corner was just absolutely incredible. Stan, on that last lap, what was going through your mind?
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
First of all, this is my first podium, so I'm very happy.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It was very luck for me. When alone, I don't know what happened to him, but I think it was a good race and good fight with Yossi, and I don't know what happened in the last chicane that he lost his place, but it's good for me. I'm happy from the results.
Well, yeah, you seem very, very pleased, and of course it's always good to end up on the podium. But going into the next round, do you expect to replicate this result and get another podium?
Next round it will be Virginia. I will do the best. My best.
Well, we hope to see you back on the podium, Stan. And before we let you go, is anyone you want to shout out or give a thanks to?
Yeah, I want first of all thank you guys for the broadcast. You're amazing. I want to thank all the drivers that come to race season after season. And thank you.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure, Stan, and congratulations on the second.
Thank you. See you.
Well, Andy, I believe it's your turn. Would you like to do the honours?
Yeah, we'll get Yossi Gabay in it. Yossi, welcome to the grid, mate, or into the commentary box. A third and a fourth place, so overall a good day for you. But we did see that incident going into the last race there, into the last corner. Just take us through that, if you would, and what was going on whilst driving in the car.
Yeah, hi guys. What a finish, huh? Yeah, yeah. It was very tight over there. The last corner is very small, very short. And Oren just slipped a little bit, and I pressed too many on the gas on the exit, and we just crashed into each other. And then Dave came, and then Mark Zuberev came, and everyone.
It was
Shit happened. Yeah.
It was a bit of a car park there coming through that last set of corners. But I just want to get your thoughts, obviously, on the reverse grid in the second race. We've been having a chat in the commentary about it. How do you approach the fact that, obviously, you were further back in the grid, you were P8th on that the second race there. When you're sitting in the car, what are you saying to yourself? Are you saying, I need to get up the front? Or are you saying, right, let's be a little bit patient here, let the carnage ensue around you, and then basically pick up the pace? Because you seem to profited quite well in that second race from literally all the incidents were going on in the first race. Just talk us through what your mindset is, being up the front end of the grid in the first race, and then in the second race being sort of mid-pack.
Yeah, so the first race, I had a pretty nice pace. I won't say it's very good, but it was nice. It was pretty stable, I think. So I started, as you said, I started fourth and came out on third. So that's a fairly good race. I lost, I think, a couple of places at the start, but then they had some spin over there on the back straight or something. So I got it back, and it was fairly okay. And the second race is always more problematic because I'm starting on the back. Usually the front are slower guys, unless they're those who came out with some accident. But usually it's a slower start, I think, and more cautious start. So I just try to keep myself on the few first turns, just to see who is around and what's going on, and then I try to push a little bit as much as I can. I just take it start slow.
Yeah, I think that's exactly the way, and I think that's what we came to at the conclusion in the box. Because obviously, if you're trying too hard, and we saw the front three at the start of that second race, when the drivers just tried to probably take 2 for 1 into the first corner, but didn't realise the car was on his inside and clipped, and that's what caused the carnage for the front two that took out the post hitter, and I think it was the third place driver as well into that first corner. And it is vital, isn't it, that when you're going into these races, you get that mentality to say, right, okay, I need to just constantly score the points. You don't need to always win a championship to actually win each of the races to win the championship, because if you've got consistent high level scoring in both the races, you're going to do well in the championship, aren't you?
Yeah. There are some pretty fast drivers like Alon Day and some others which are not here, and also Shiran Kaner, also very fast driver. As a medium pace driver, I think that's what I called myself, I think. Then I just, as you mentioned, I just need to keep up on the top, not necessarily the super fast or first place, but stability is the key here, I think.
100%. Well, a third place and a fourth place in both the races is very much valuable points for yourself, Yossi. Before we let you go, mate, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
Just as usual, the whole community, you guys, for this great broadcast and everything. We're having a good time, and that's the point of it, I think.
Yeah, exactly. That is. So good luck out in Virginia next time out, Yossi.
Okay, thank you very much.
Brilliant. There was Yossi there getting a third and a fourth overall, and even from the drivers themselves, it's that one that takes that little bit of time there, Aaron, that gets them valuable points in both rounds, that really going to be the ones at the top of the championship come the end of the season, fighting for them top 3 positions.
Yeah, I think if Alan Day especially can be a little bit more lucky with some cars, then I think he'll be right up there. And we're starting to see a few more people as well take the challenge to him, which is, just amazing to see that people can keep up with him during the race. But yeah, that's unfortunately all we have time for today at Suzuka. Been yet another round of interesting action throughout the entire race. Even in qualifying, it was plentiful, and it's been an absolute pleasure to commentate today for you. I've been Aaron Smith, joined here by Andy Thompson for half the broadcast, but nevertheless, Louis Arroyo as well in the production booth, doing an amazing job as always, and we will see you next time. Be sure to tune in. It's been an absolute pleasure. Good night.